Howdy folks, in this video we're talking the Dark Side Cave on Dagobah, right? The scene is called Luke's failure at the cave. Yoda actually talks about Luke's failure. He says that is why you failed. These types of things are coming up. So there's this kind of middle moment of the Force happening in Ep 5. And the idea is that we've had a lot of visions of the Force so far. We've had Obi-Wan Kenobi's talking about it. We have Yoda talking about it. And these take on this much more high philosophical notion. And this isn't a critique or anything, but the idea is, how do you convey the Force itself after they've lived with it for decades to Luke, this inexperienced person? And it starts to take on this high-minded philosophical tone. They're not wrong, but there is some distance between Luke's experience and the experience of Yoda and Obi-Wan. Also, there's some distance from the framework of how they teach. They taught Jedi when it was pervasive, when these people were coming to them as Jedi in a culture, in a temple, in a training facility, right? So it just might not connect with Luke, certainly might not connect with us. And so it gets this high philosophical tone to it. Whereas we also see a very physical, a very tangible side to the Force, where Luke is being instructed to block blaster bolts with the lightsaber, right? We also see him lifting rocks. There's also something about physical training on top of it as well, where he's going for a jog with Yoda. He's swinging on vines. He's doing flips. There's some physical, tangible thing happening. And I think that the moment of the Dark Side Cave is really this blending of those two things. You get a very material, physical, visual moment, but also it's probably the highest concept moment in the saga. It's at least the first high concept moment of the saga, right? Maybe not the first. I would say that, now that I think about it, perhaps Obi-Wan becoming one with the Force. If you strike me down, I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Perhaps that's the first high concept moment, but I do think that this moment in Ep 5 is the epitome of it, right? This notion is really asking us to struggle with these things. How could defeating Vader be a failure? Right? Oh, you see that it is actually this appearance of Luke's face under the mask. And so there is this fear in Luke of becoming Vader, but it doesn't seem like he's recognizing that. And if this dark side is so enticing, so tempting, all of these things, why would it show him what he doesn't want to happen? Why would this act as like a warning when Luke is currently unaware that that is his father, right? So clearly the lineage, the temptation, all of that is happening. But it's almost like the Dark Side Cave is warning him about something, while also, though, how could it be a failure, right? This is why you fail. And it's because Luke gave in to his hatred, his violence, his aggression. And that is the action that would cause him to become Vader. So you get this cool teaching moment that's occurring. And it is those failures that are so critical to teaching, right? So we have a lot circulating in there, and not to take it too seriously, right? I love Family Guy's treatment of this moment where Luke says to Yoda, hey, what's in there? And he's like, oh, it's this dark side cave. It's super confusing, though, and it really grinds the movie to a halt, right? So I do want to take it as this hugely instructional moment, but also this moment that we have to keep dealing with, we have to keep struggling with. This is the type of thing that you generally just kind of gloss over as a child. The target audience of this movie, this young adult, this person who consumes the monomyth, that cave is just like, let's think about what he does next when he goes and he starts to try and rescue everyone on Cloud City, right? So you've got this cave with a lot of layers happening. And one of the things we have to struggle with is Yoda, first off, using it as a teaching moment. There's something in there that Yoda uses the dark side in a way to teach Luke a lesson, right? What's in there? Only what you bring with you. One of the coolest lines, one of my favorite lines in all of Star Wars. Only what you take with you. And Yoda's like, hey, that's the dark side cave. It's a whole thing. You won't need your weapons. And then Luke's like, yeah, let me bring these weapons. Like, what's going on, Luke? Come on. This shows Yoda's fears of he's not ready for this moment, right? He's not ready for the training. Luke straps on his lightsaber and his blaster, right? Goes into this cave, and then he finds a fight. So only what you take with you, this need to fight the dark side. And in this moment, Luke is being instructed on that light side. He's ignoring the training right then and there, only for defense. Yoda guarantees Luke's safety in that cave, right? Where you will not need your weapons. The Force will preserve you. And instead, he invokes these more aggressive tenets that the Jedi are not about. So all of this is roiling in his failure, but do notice that Yoda then goes on to immediately keep training him, right? This failure is not failure to use the light side of the Force, failure to be a Jedi, failure to be this like messianic savior that will free the galaxy. So one of the other things circulating with Yoda is what's going on with Dagobah, with the planet itself, with this Force space. Why are you on a dark side space? And I've got this atlas here. Look how gigantic it is. It's like a real style atlas, but it's a Star Wars Galactic Maps thing. And this is actually post Ep7, so it functions in the new canon, the Disney canon, and you can see that Yoda's house is here, and it's called the Domain of Evil. It's right there. And so Yoda is posted up. He's like, I'm going to live right around the corner. We can run to this place. Yeah, we got to swing through a few vines. It's a little bit of a hike, but we're just going. And then by the end of the day, we'll be back, right? So this is how close Yoda is sitting to this. And this is our large concept of the Force, right? That the Force is all of these things. The Force has the dark side in it. It has the light side in it. And you get this Dagobah swamp setting where you get this muck and murk and this churning thing. And it's a setting that would unsettle us as people. It's dark, it's gloomy, it's mucky, it's all of those things. But I want you to note that Yoda is living there. Yoda, the greatest connection to the Force we have, right? Yoda may have made some mistakes in his interpretations in the past, but he is at his peak in Episode 5. He has connected with the Force. He has been in exile, only doing Force stuff. And he is confident enough to include this dark side cave in like day 9 of Luke's actual formal Jedi training for his whole life, right? It isn't even consecutive days. So he is able to use the dark side to instruct Luke. And it's because that is the full picture of the Force, right? It's this temptation. It's this wrong approach. It's this method of prioritizing these aggressive, these violent, these inner wants that lead you towards this path, right? So the idea is that Yoda is in this space of total Force. The swamp, this muck mire is feeling very dark side, but you see that there is a place of the dark side, and then Yoda is there just fine, right? He's not being consumed by the dark side. He's not constantly combating it. He is just living and connecting with the Force itself. We're going to watch Ep1 as the next movie, so pay attention to notions of the living Force, okay? And and keep that in mind. And swamps are this extreme moment of life cycling, of biotic cycling. The muck, the water, the humidity of swamps breaks down materials quite quickly, and it gets this like primordial life comes out of it moment. And the heart of Dagobah being this strong and ultimately well aligned planet with the Force, I think, is shown in the imagery we see when you get all of these like snakes and reptiles, these things that really hit us in this primal core of like snakes are bad. There are only a few symbols out there where snakes for humans represent something positive. And it's funny because you'll actually see them like entwining around the rod on a back of an ambulance, right? So snakes being this like original sin, being this something that is just built into us, right? I was watching this show Brain Games, and they did a little experiment, and they show you a bunch of pictures and they say, oh, this is about memory. Then we'll rip through 45 pictures, 45 various images, and then hit us with what ones you remember. And then we'll do it again. And then we'll see which ones stick out. And in the second pack of images, they included a picture of a spider and a picture of a snake. And they say that when you run this experiment, everyone remembers the snake. Everyone remembers the spider. And so there seems to be an argument for the human brain, the human eye, the human experience has evolutionarily developed to recognize snake and spider. And this is important because, well, if you're good at seeing snakes and spiders when you're walking around having not even invented clothes yet, right? Then, well, don't step on that snake. Don't touch that spider because you get bitten, they're poisonous, and then you die. All the people who were like me were like, oh, a snake, I gotta go pick that up. Well, they died because they got bit by poisonous snakes, right? Like, I love snakes, and so I'm always like, mine, I gotta go pick that up. I gotta go hang out with a snake. But, that's not a great instinct when you could die if you go near a snake, right? So being able to see those things quickly and separate them from the landscape allows you to survive better. And so snakes have come up as this unsettling thing in human space and have become symbolic of all things evil. But I want you to know that a snake is hanging out in the food bowl at Yoda's hut. Like, this is not an aggressive snake. Yeah, there are like lizards and snakes circulating around the dark side cave, but they're also circulating in Yoda's house, probably the most light-sidey place in the galaxy, right? Short of some of the temples and caves and all of these things. But Yoda's the guy. And so what is this doing? It is subverting our expectation of the dark side, and it is included in the Force. It's not pushed against. It is not extracted from, but rather you need to approach it with the proper perspective, right? The dark side is innate to the Force. Perhaps the Sith are doing things incorrectly, right? Incorrectly relating to the dark side of the Force. And we will, in the prequels, get to talk about how the Jedi may actually be incorrectly relating to the Force, although I don't think that in Ep 5, Yoda is incorrectly relating to the Force, even though we may be able to levy that criticism on him in upcoming weeks. So, I want you to think about how Yoda is entrenched in Dagobah, in the Force. This might be an argument for how he can't be found. Vader and Palps were looking for Yoda this whole time, so why couldn't they find him? Probably because he is indecipherable from the Force, right? Why is Obi-Wan all of a sudden appearing in these harsh landscapes? He appears as this Force ghost on Hoth. He directs, Luke to Yoda, this other harsh, swampy landscape that just consumes the X-Wing, right? And then he is having conversations with Yoda in front of Luke from Force Ghost Land, right? It's a whole thing. Dagobah is this cycling natural space that is really linking raw force to raw landscape. Okay, gang? So that's the perspective I want to offer you. I want to show you. I want to generate for you as we produce these notions of the Force. Because the Force is this potent, permanent, underlying notion of the saga. It's one of the very unique things that Star Wars grants us in the world of sci-fi fantasy. It is not the same as just saying, oh, magic, right? There are strict functions, processes, and the will of the Force itself that we can derive from all of these films and the extra materials. So, gang, that's my thoughts. That's my lecture on the failure at the cave. And if you are, well, since you're in the class, take a look at the lecture slides that I've added for EP5 because it goes into a little bit more detail about the notions of the Force as EP5 contributes to that. All right, gang? So I will catch you all on the boards and in the vids. Be good.